Hey there, cool kids, and welcome back to part 3 of the electric copper chopper bicycle build. We're going to be working in this relatively shorter video on some beautification, some detail work, some finishing touches to really put this thing over the top. Thanks for joining us for a 3-part series of first on this channel, and let's get right to it. Beautification of the copper chopper, this time on Make and Believe. So I got a limited head start on this video in the last one when we were electrifying, where I made the mount for the tablet that became the dashboard of the copper chopper with the speedometer and all that. And I made a really big version of that universal phone holder. That started to determine the overall color scheme for how I'm going to be working with the rest of the beautification for this project. The first thing I want to talk about is a faux gas tank. That's what we're starting with today. I found a Gas Tank 3 file online. It was okay, it was all right, but it wasn't quite right. It was made for a model, and when I scaled it up to full size, it just wasn't going to work for this particular bicycle frame. So what I did was I sliced off one of the ends, and then I ended up slicing that in half. See if you can get that seam on camera there. There it is. Sliced it in half so that I could put both ends of the cut ends face down and get a nice clean print. And I printed these in the glow-in-the-dark PLA, the same PLA that I used for the tablet mount holder, at 0% infill. So these are entirely empty on the inside. And the plan for this, I actually printed two. Once I got this printed, I mirrored the files on the x-axis to create a copy. So now we've got a faux gas tank, which will sit on either sides of the main frame, up at the front underneath the neck of the handlebars. What I'm going to do is I'm actually next going to, well, first I've glued these two pieces together, but you know me, I like to tack things a lot more strongly and not rely on super glue. So I'm going to take my soldering iron with the fat tip, and I'm going to do a little bit of seam connecting here. I'm just going to melt these two seams along the back together. I'm not going to do it on the front. I think we're going to be good with just a back tack connection. I'll do that on both of those pieces. Then I'm going to switch the tip in my soldering iron to the X-Acto knife blade. And when that gets heated up, the plan is to cut a square, or roughly a square, out of each one of these halves. Leaving the center intact, so we've got that nice grab, so the whole thing stays solidly as one piece with a nice seam, but gives me storage compartments. 1, 2, 3, and 4, so 2 on either side of the bike. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a lip edge on the back here so that I can attach magnets behind it, so those magnets can just clamp onto the frame. So that's the plan. I'm going to get to closing the seams, and then I'm going to cut it open, and we'll move on from there. I've got a lot of tools. Well, not a lot, but I've got several tools that I want to carry with me on this bike to make sure, if I'm out and stranded, something happens, that I can do on-site, fixes for the machine. Having that electric wheel gets me pretty far away from home base, so I want to make sure I've got basic tools with me, and this is going to be the first storage compartment system that I use to store those. Right, the seam is closed. It's not pretty, but you know what? This is the backside, and honestly, I'm more concerned with having this be a solid connection than I am with it being pretty. I'm going to slap this on the frame of the bike, and all you're really going to see is the outsides. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's get. I'm going to let the soldering iron cool down, and then I'll switch tips to the X-Acto knife blade, and I will do the surgery on the backside compartments. So open that up. Okay, so now that I've got my cutouts made, with my lips, I have easy access to get into all 4 compartments and to behind the lip to attach my magnets. For the magnets, I am using these neodymium magnets, disc magnets. I got a 6-pack. These are almost a 1/2 inch in diameter, and I think I'm gonna try to use 8 in each. 1 on each corner, 1 on each corner. This corner over here at the back, the lip gets a little, I mean, it comes together really in narrow fashion at the tip there. So I think these are probably going to have to come back a little more, but I still think I'm going to try to do 8 total on each one. All right, I actually ended up going with 7. I've got 4 in the front, and then 3 in the back. And now that I've got it tacked in pretty well with some super glue, I'm going to come back on each one of these from the sides and a little bit on the top there, top when it's facing in this direction, of each of these magnets with some hot glue to make sure that I've really got a solid bond. Super glue and magnets are not always the best of friends, and when you start to exert pull on it, you can break that super glue tack bond pretty easily. So hot glue reinforcement on both sides, and then I'll move on to placing my tools and giving this a test fit on the bike itself. All right, test fit worked out okay. I think I am going to add 1 more magnet in the back top corner on each side. The one that I added is down here, and it's a little bit lower than the bar once I've fit the tank halves on, but you know what? It's pretty secure, all things considered, and I think it'll be even better once I get that one in place. Works out nicely. Those storage compartments. Boom. Not bad. Get it lined up there. Yeah. Let's give you a better look from the back. Yeah, so here's how it looks top side. Not a lot of clearance there for my brake line to run through, but just enough. This faux tank looks pretty sick, actually, if I do say so myself. And no conflict with my knees whatsoever, so this is going to be great. Okay, so now that I've got my compartment faux gas tank panels all set, scored away, and magnetized, I can move on to the next step, which is packing them up full of the tools to fix the bike in case of need, which is their entire purpose. One of the cool things about using magnets is in addition to clamping onto the bike this way, they can also clamp onto my metallic tools like this wrench from the back side. For example, I'll just pop this in and give it a little twist until it comes into contact with the magnet here and the magnet there, and that's not going anywhere. So now I have a wrench with me wherever I go. Next up, I'm going to be taking this little multi-tool. It's called a Little Guppy. I really like these things. I was given this as a gift by a good friend several years ago. It has a small adjustable wrench. And as you can see coming out the tip there is a Phillips head screwdriver. It also has a flathead screwdriver, a bottle opener. It is a carabiner. And it has a little lock blade knife, so that's kind of nice. So I'm going to pack this one in here too, slide it down to where I'd like it to be. Oops, hold on. Close that. Wrench back up, because it just fits better that way. All right, pop it in its case, give it a little twist so it's in contact with both of those magnets. And again, not going anywhere. 2 down. Next up, I've got this Allen wrench, which is what I used to take apart the forks, the front forks that house the front wheel of the bike. When I was initially in part 1 realigning the front wheel with the steering column. I could see having to adjust that on the fly, especially if I hit a really big bump or something, or if I, God forbid, wipe out. So I'm going to keep this Allen wrench in here. Now this one is a little bit too long to fit in either one of these compartments by itself, although it does lock onto those magnets quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is actually drill a hole in my wall that separates the 2 panels, so that this can come through, slide through, and then lock to the side against the magnets there. All right, hole drilled, and you know that worked out really nicely. Nothing's shaking around in there. Magnets are holding everything in place. I also like that you can give, you're not going to see it like this when it's up against the bike frame, but like it's kind of cool that it's a bit translucent. You can see the tools through the thing. That's just a little neat. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this half. And I think for now, that's all I'm going to put on this side. I'm going to move to the next side where I want to mount this. This is a hand pump for pumping up a tire in case of need. Super important tool. I don't want it on the outside external parts of my bike, like visible. It's also not going to fit in either one of these compartments. It's going to have to, much like that Allen wrench, go across the seam to both. For this particular tool, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get away with drilling a hole and popping it through there. I think it's just too close to the outside edge. Instead, I'm going to have to cut a channel for it. And you know what? It's not the end of the world. It is what it is. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so that actually fits into the slot pretty well. And it comes just, I don't know if you can see it on camera, just like a tiny bit further out than the flat back of this particular compartment. This pump is just a little bit wider, but that actually works to the advantage of the system here, because it, when pressed against the frame of the bike, holds it in place. In addition, though, I still want that extra nice tight magnet lock for the tools like I had on the other half, and there's just no metal to be had in this. So what I'm going to do is take this washer, the diameter of which is just a little bit bigger than where this attaches to the tire, to inflate it, and I've tested this. I just took it to my tire to make sure that it goes over the Schrader valve without, you know, any conflict, and it does. So I'm going to glue this to the front of the pump so that it'll snap right to the attention of this magnet right here when it's installed, and that'll hold that in place nicely. Cool. So while that's drying, I'm going to assemble my final piece for this kit on the tire repair side of the Faux Gas Tank, and that is a tube repair kit. I've got a strip of rubber here that I can use the knife that's on my multi-tool in the other compartment to cut pieces off of as needed, and I'm going to just rubber band that here onto a tub of super glue. A bottle of super glue. Drop a rubber band on that so it makes a nice little tire repair kit along with the knife. And again, super glue has no metal components, so I have super glued a tiny little washer to the tip so that I can have it make contact with one of the magnets and lock in nicely. All right, both pieces of the kit locked in tightly. They're not going anywhere. And a little bit of luck, I'll never even need this, but it's great to know that I've got it if I do. All right, there you have it. The Faux Gas Tank side compartments. Magnet locked on. That is clean. I like it. I also like that it's printed in glow-in-the-dark PLA, so it gets a little extra light on the bike at nighttime. All right, so next up on the customization of the Copper Chopper, I have got myself a bike turn signal assembly, and I really like this one. Here is a picture of the box. I have already unboxed it, obviously, and laid out all of the components here to take a look at what we've got. First and foremost, it came with an instruction manual. You know, I'm not going to promise to read it, but I like that in case of need. It came with some hardware for assembly. This is the main unit itself. I'll go over that here in a minute. This is the remote control. It has a swivel lock system on the back that goes onto this nice green lantern ring. I'm just kidding. It's not a green lantern ring. What it is to snap onto your handlebars. You put a piece of hardware and a bolt through there, get it positioned the way that you want it, and then once you've got it set, you can push and turn in the remote to lock onto the handlebars, or unclip it to take it with you, because one of the cool features about this particular unit is that it has an alarm you can set that is motion activated to protect your bike by sending out an extraordinarily loud blast of noise if someone touches it. I think that's pretty cool. So that's this part. And then back here, whoa, reach all the way back here, we've got the mounting hardware for the unit itself. And this is pretty cool. As you can see in the back, there's a little clip unit. And right now it's brand new, so it's going to take a little working before it easily clips in and out of here. But the way it's designed to work is it slots in, and you keep the hardware mounted on the back, and you can just pop it out by pushing this tab and pulling the unit back out again. Again, that's going to take a little bit of wear before it's easy to pop in and out. Right now it's really, really hard to do, but I think it's a pretty cool design, and I like it. Yeah. So, in case this doesn't fit, this is designed to mount onto your the pole underneath your saddle. In case it doesn't fit, they've given us a little bit of rubber for play. Yeah, I think this might actually fit just fine without the rubber, but we will see. Let's take a look at the unit itself and see what its features are. I have charged it up. It is USB-C, surprisingly enough, charge port. And it came with a USB-C cable, but not with the charger itself, which is fine. I mean, everybody's got a million chargers laying around these days. And, you know, a spare one I had worked just fine on the first shot, so not a big deal. They do say that some fast chargers won't work with this, but, I mean, anything designed for USB-C, you're probably going to be okay with. Let's start with the turn signals. First, on the remote, the turn signals are located at the bottom. When the thing is mounted on your handlebars, this is supposed to be at the bottom. And then you've got your horn here, your locking icon here to lock the bike. And then this is to cycle through the different light options. There are several different options you can have. Actually, let's start with the turn signal. So we'll do the right signal. You can see that not only is it really bright and really clear which direction you're turning, it's also got a little click noise that goes with it. Same for the left. And it's click on and click off. That's pretty neat. You can also cycle through the light options up here on top, but I'm going to use the remote for everything just because it's easy. All right, so here we go. Option number 1. It's pretty neat. We've got the breathing option, kind of a nice pulse, a little more subtle. We've got the, hey, look at me, flashing lights. Then we've got the solid state steady light, which I kind of like. It's probably what I'll have on the bike when I'm rolling. And then your flashers for emergency hazards. Kind of a pulsing flash, and it's off again. So that's pretty neat. I like it. So far, so good. If you want to hear the horn, that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's super loud, honestly. I'm pretty impressed. It's not the most awesome noise, but if you want to get somebody's attention, it certainly will. And here is the speaker system down at the bottom from where that horn is producing its sound. And the same mechanism is what it uses for the alarm when it's set and activated. I'm not going to do the alarm until I have this thing all mounted up on the bike, because it is motion activated again once you set it. And I really, the best way to test that kind of functionality is not by moving this thing around off the bike, it's by moving the bike with this mounted. So we will get there momentarily. All right, so next up, I'm going to install the remote, install the mounting hardware, and pop this thing onto the seat, onto the back of the seat, and we will see what we shall see. All right, I think it is appropriately dark. Yeah, I've got it mounted below the seat, and I thought at first that it was a weird angle and you wouldn't be able to see it very well, but I actually think on retrospect, let's turn the light on first. You know what, you can see that just fine. All right, it's on flashing mode now. I'm gonna put it, I like pulsing mode too. That's, you know what, that's pretty cool. But I'm gonna find, no, not epilepsy mode. Here we go. Solid state. This is probably, if I use this light, this is probably what I will set it at. That being said, I don't know that I am gonna actually use this light for 2 reasons. One, I have this other light already mounted in what I feel is a more visible position. And secondly, because The motion activation sensor that's built into this taillight is not just for an alarm setting, but it's also for brake assist. So when you're going fast and you decelerate, the motion sensor on the unit senses that and activates the brake light. So in a sense, if I turn this off, oops, that's flasher mode. If I turn it off altogether, like this, I've got my tail light, but when I brake, I'll have an extra light that comes on, just like a car would. You have a tail light system and a brake light system, and they're separate lights doing separate jobs. Even though they're both red, it's easily identifiable that I will be braking at night. So I think I will probably end up doing that. That being said, let's test the turn signals. Very clearly turning right. And very clearly turning left. Yeah. I'm digging it. This is actually pretty cool. So finally, let's test the horn from back. I'm maybe like, you know, camera's about 7 feet away from the bike right now. Not bad. And then finally, I'm going to turn off this light so we can get a little better visual on what's happening here. I'm going to set the alarm and then move the bike to show you what happens. So there are two things that happen. I've tested this already. First, let's set the alarm. Okay, alarm is set. If you just touch the bike a little bit, it'll give you that warning. If you try to move the bike, yeah, it gets worse. All right, I turned the alarm off manually with the clicker because that shit's loud, and my neighbor dogs are going to start barking pretty soon here. At any rate, this is pretty cool. I'm enjoying it. I think this is the right device for this particular bicycle. I highly endorse it, and I will drop a link in the description to where you can pick one up for yourself if you so choose. Okay, so after installation of this awesome bike taillight alarm system thingamajigger, I did not end up using this rubber piece. You might. In fact, it's two rubber pieces. It's like that slip and then this slip that can go along the outside and join them together. Pretty neat. I didn't need it. It just, both parts fit my bike perfectly, but you might. It also came with two extra nuts, which I'm not going to use, but I guess if you drop one and it's gone forever, you know, instead of having to go to the hardware store, that's kind of cool. Allen wrench worked perfectly. I always try to use the tools that come with the product to install it to see if it works, and this one did. It also came with a little clip for your belt, I guess, or keychain for the remote controller. I'm not going to use that either, but I actually think that's a pretty cool thing if you don't want to carry a bunch of stuff around and you would like to be able to pop it off and immediately clip it onto your keychain so that you don't lose it while you're away from your bike. That's pretty good thinking and a cool inclusion by this company. So I like this product, giving it a big thumbs up, and let's move on to the next. All right, so next up, I'm adding a cargo rack to the back of this beautiful bicycle, and I really hope this one fits because with that 4 1/4 inch wide tire in the back, we're looking at like, I think an 8 almost 9 inch gap for the frame that goes around the rear wheel to make it a hub. And I had a really hard time finding things wide enough to fit. This is actually the widest product I could find for a rear cargo rack that supported any realistic amount of weight that I might want to throw on there. And I'm planning on adding some panniers on the back before this is all said and done. So yeah, some significant weight will be experienced, and the frame can totally take it. So hopefully this rack can too, and it's wide enough to fit. This is the product I purchased. It's Lowrider Bicycles and Accessories, and let's get it fitted and see if it works. The one thing I will note about this product, and I knew this from the comments and reviews before I purchased it, is that it doesn't come with any hardware. You're kind of relying on your own self to get this thing installed and whatever gear you've got handy or whatever you can find from the hardware store that'll fit onto your bike to mount this thing. As you can see, we've got 4 mounting points. The wider 2 are going to go down onto the frame itself, and these 2 are supposed to go onto the bicycle saddle mount. I took a look at that, and I'm not really sure how that's supposed to work, but I'm going to get these 2 mounted first, and then we'll figure this one out appropriately afterwards. Here we go. Okay, that actually worked out pretty well. I found a good bolt with a flat side. I'm not sure if you can see this. Let me see. Oh, there you go, with a flat side to put through the back and some lock nuts on the front, and that's very tight on both sides. I did have to remove my chain guard to get to this side, but that was fine. Put it right back on again. And it's very stable and very solid. Up on the front, so, you know, there were these two things that were supposed to go to, well, let me show you on another bicycle, because this seat on this cruiser is a bit different. Here we go. So on that e-bike right there, you can see at the bottom there's a bolt that goes through. That is where that is meant to attach. But this seat on my chopper is different, and it doesn't have that bolt. So I went ahead and drilled through into, which, by the way, this stem, at least up here at the top where these two pieces are fitted together, is solid all the way through, which is kind of insane. I did not expect that. So I pre-drilled out and then put in some self-tapping screws of a slightly larger diameter to make a really solid connection on both sides here. And now we are very, very stable and solid, and I'm not really worried about weight on this at all. One thing I didn't notice before I started to do the install is there's something back here to attach like a mount point for a taillight or for a reflector. I don't know that either this taillight or my bike's brake lights that I installed are going to fit or mount to this easily. Although it would be cool if I could put the turn signal one back here. We'll see. I'll think about that. As it stands now, this thing is so bright, the turn signal assembly, and it really does shine through, so I'm not really worried about any conflict or being seen. But it would be cool if I could get it back there, so we'll see. The other thing that's cool about this is this piece here pulls up. And that's pretty neat. So you can kind of like pin things in or use it as a back bracket or extension. And yeah, that's pretty nice. Anyway, I'm next going to start working on the panniers, I think, and see if I can get the right ones to fit this bike with the leather scheme and to, you know, hang off of this particular cargo rack. That's going to be a bit of a sourcing journey. So we'll pick that up next. All right, so a bit of a time jump between that last clip and this one. I was filming most of this episode in December and January of 2022 and 2023. It has been almost 6 months since then, and you know, sometimes life just gets in the way. And it's almost June of 2023 now, and I'm picking this project up again. And I haven't had a chance to film any of the stuff I've done between January and now, so the rest of this video is going to be a bit of a show and tell on what I've done and how I've finished basically the beautification of the copper chopper, where we're at today. Next, after this little tour, there are actually going to be 2 more parts to this video. If you've been watching the series, you will know that the electrification, my first attempt at that, failed. And so we're going to have to go a different route. So either that or the trailer video is going to be next. And I don't mean trailer like an intro teaser for a movie. By trailer, I mean I have built a teardrop trailer for the copper chopper, and it looks just fantastic. So I want to show you what I've done there. And I'm not sure which video is going to release first. I might dive right back into the electrification because I'm just so excited about it. At any rate, let's do a quick tour, show you the rest of the things I did just to kind of beautify this particular bike, and then we will move forward to the next part in the series. All right, I'm sure you'll notice a few changes right off the bat. First, I've added some lovely panniers. I will, of course, drop the link in the description to where these came from. 2 buckles for the main compartment, 1 buckle for a smaller compartment. Let me open up and show you the inside of what these look like. I actually dropped a cardboard box in there. I cut it just to kind of fill it out because when I first got the panniers, they were kind of they kind of sagged a little bit, and I wanted them to look full whether they were full or not. It's just a nicer aesthetic. So I got a few items in here in the front zip pouch, and then the large wider component, and then that front pocket. So these are both pretty cool. They're not huge, but you know what? This bike isn't huge, so I think they balance pretty well. Next up, I've added my U-bolt lock that I like so much. I've strapped that onto the cargo rack for now. It doesn't have a permanent mount, and that lock actually travels from bike to bike for me, depending on what purpose I need it for. So I like that there's not a permanent mount on this bike. I don't always use it, and sometimes I drop it in the trailer for this bike, which is another easier way to store it. On the back, you can see I've added a wood block here. This, again, is a leftover piece from the fence project we did a while back that you can find a video here somewhere on my channel, I'm sure. I always keep my bits and pieces, and stained redwood is always usable, so I found a little block to use to attach to the bike rack, and I have relocated the turn signal light brake alarm assembly from the seat back out to the back here where it is much more visible. Regarding the seat, I've also swapped the seat out with an old man seat, as I like to call it. I like the backrest quite a bit. Now, when these Schwinn Stingray choppers first came out in the early 2000s, the seat that came with it, which of course didn't come with this bike when I purchased it, had what's called a sissy bar on the back, this little riser that pops up over it. It did not have a backrest. It was a banana seat, but it had the sissy bar, so I liked reintroducing that particular detail. But I'll tell you, I have planned long-range travel for this bike. That is what this is going to be for. In the end, it is going to be a mini chopper for me, an electric chopper, and having that backrest is just so much more comfortable in the long term. After I've been riding for about an hour, I can start to sit back a little bit and relax. It's fantastic. I like the aesthetic, but I understand some people might not. But for me, it kind of makes it look a bit more like the electric motorcycle that it wants to be. All right, so moving forward, you can see I have actually painted the Faux Gas Tank and the tablet mount to kind of chrome them out and match the handlebars and the other chrome accessories. I want to limit the color story for the bike as much as possible. I don't like too many colors. I couldn't get an exact match for the seat and the panniers, but they're pretty close, and they go pretty well in the color story. And the panniers do match the handlebars, or pardon me, the handle grips that I've added here, which are a really nice touch. Swapping out the original black ones for these leather ones is great, and these end pieces actually pop off. So if you're interested, I'll drop a link for this product. You can also add the side turn signals if you want. A lot of people like having front turn signals up on their handlebars. I don't particularly for this purpose, but for this bike, but you can do that. Let's see, I've also added a front handlebar bag onto the forks here, in which I keep a nice beanie and a scarf and a pair of leather gloves in case it gets cold, because it does that sometimes here in SoCal. Of course, you will remember the headlight that I added in part 1 of this video, as well as the brakes and the rearview mirrors. Finally, on the front tire, you may recall, especially if you skipped part 2 of this video, that I earlier in this video had an electric wheel motor on the front here. That didn't work out, so I ended up sending it back. Now, when I originally got this bike, and the way they come, if you pick one up for yourself, it's got in the back a 20-inch by 4¼ inch fat tire. On the front, it comes with a 24-inch tire, so it's a little bit taller than the fatty in the back, but it's a thin tire. I think it's 1.95. When I got the electric wheel, I upgraded that from 24 inches to a 26-inch hub. And now, when I've returned that wheel, I've gone all the way up to a 29-inch wheel, which I think is just perfect for this bike. Had to let my neighbor pass by there. Was getting a little bit of audio conflict. At any rate, so now I think we are right with the tires on this. We've got the original Stingray branded 20-inch by 4¼ inch wide fat tire on the back, and a 29-inch, that's 700C tire on the front, and I'm just super pleased with how that looks. You may notice I've also got these little light up lights that start to go once you get going about 15 miles an hour on both wheels, just to give me a little bit more visibility at nighttime. I've picked a green color, but they come in an array of colors. And yeah, I think the copper chopper is pretty much there, visually speaking. So the next and final 2 segments of this build will entail, and I'm going to give you a quick peek here, the teardrop trailer, very exciting, and the next version of electrification. I have chosen to upgrade to the 1,000-watt Bafang motor kit. I have just received it in the mail and started to unbox it, so stay tuned. We are going to make this the electric motorcycle it has always wanted to be next time on Make and Believe.